Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. I'm Rebecca Caro, and I'm here with Marlene Royal.
Hello, Rebecca, and hello to our listeners.
So I just want to kick off with a special welcome to everybody who's joining us live through the Facebook live stream. We're experimenting with this as a new way of broadcasting podcasts from Rowing Chat. Now, our sponsors this month are the people who help us keep Rowing Chat going, and we are very grateful, firstly, to William Marnie. As a man, do you find it hard to get a dress shirt that actually fits your rowing body? Rowing Chat introduces William Marnie, the specialist shirt maker for athletes. You can get started with an exclusive 10% discount coupon, which is Rowing Chat 10, where 10 is the numeral. You can follow the link from the show notes or go to www.rowing.chat/sponsors. And Marnie is spelled Ma-Honey, M-A honey. So check that out. And our second reminder is that Rowing Chat is doing a audience survey. And you're going to hear us mention this for a couple of months now. We'd like you to participate because it'll help us learn more about you. So no matter how long you've been a listener or how frequently or infrequently you listen to the show, please could you take a few minutes, visit the website rowing.chat/listener-survey. You'll also find the listener survey link at the bottom of the homepage, and you can complete this anonymously. So we're extremely grateful to everybody who helps us in that way. Let's talk a little bit about April. Oh my God, it's nearly April.
I know, it's amazing. It's getting warm here in North America. In Northern North America, I should say.
So normally on the show here, we talk about what's in the Faster Masters Rowing program. This is a paid subscription and it has 6 modules. So what's coming up?
Okay, what we're going to focus on in April. And we realize that a lot of people's schedules have changed right now because of the COVID-19 situation. In our technique model, what we're going to talk about this month is home exercises to developing your feathering muscles. So I'm going to do a video on some exercises that you can use to prepare for improving your feathering and squaring once you get back in the boat. The training module is our program, which is our rowing program, but also we make notes in terms of what you can do indoors here. And we're keeping our focus on the preparation for 1K races in the summer, even though right now there's races that may or may not be held. We're still keeping our positive outlook towards those regattas. And so we want to continue that preparation for the 1K. Our land program is our exercises, our strengthening program. We may include a little bit more things that you can do at home in case your gym is closed. Our performance module, we're going to talk about how to convert cross-training modalities to rowing time. So that's what we're going to include in our performance module. And our rowing lifestyle module, since people are going through a lot of different situations right now, we're going to look at how we balance daily stress factors and daily recovery factors. And our bonus module, as always, we're going to surprise you with what that will be.
So just for people who've never heard it before, Faster Masters got started because Marlene and I realized that as coaches, we can't multiply ourselves and coach everyone. And masters generally say that they have 2 particular challenges. One is they don't get any coaching, and the other is they get all the lousy boats. So we can't help you with the boats, but we want to provide a whole range of materials that you can use to self-coach and to give yourself the best possible guidance in your own training. there are 4 separate ways to join. One is as an individual, where you get all 6 of the elements that Marlene described. One is as a crew, where in addition you get video analysis for your crew, and you get drills and skills exercises that are more orientated to crew rowing. One is as an entire club. So if you're a club coach running a masters group, or if you're just a group of masters without a coach, you can join, and we then give you all of the good things that you get in the crew stuff, plus stuff about how to run the group, a little bit of help with crew selections and which regattas to go on and so on, and also running training camps. And lastly, for people who do have a coach and do have a club that provides a program, we have a magazine, and that excludes the training program and the land training, but gives you everything else. Right, sales pitch over. I've been collecting a lot of information about what's going on with COVID-19 and global lockdowns. And so far in my inbox today, Henley Royal Regatta is cancelled. The Olympics is postponed 1 year. There is a postponement and cancellation for Henley veterans and presumably the British national veterans, but I haven't seen that come out. We know that the Craftsbury camps are not cancelled, but they are holding them as closed until confirmed. Is that correct, Marlene?
I think right now they have not made exact decisions regarding what they're going to do at the beginning of the season, but they're looking towards perhaps towards the end of March, early April to let people know. And all that, if you go on their website, they actually have a little button that you can click on to get the updates of what's going on with the camps. And as of the moment, they have not canceled any camps.
Where I've called it useful links for rowers during COVID-19, which isn't very catchy, but it's at the top of our blog, which is fastermastersrowing.com/blog. And I will add in anything else here that anyone can find. So if you message us, we'll just throw those in there. At the moment, what we've got on the site is a detailed list of all the different places and things that are being set up. So firstly, there's a stuck at home rowing group on Facebook where people are sharing ideas for training plans. We also have our own Faster Masters Rowing training discussion group. There's no charge, just come in there and let's talk training, get your questions answered. There's also the Masters Rowing International group on Facebook, which I know we're streaming into now. So hello and welcome to everybody who's from that group. Rows and All is a rowing data website where you can upload your data and do analysis. And they're also going to be running some virtual races in the future. We'll put up dates and details when they get announced. Adrian Cassidy and the guys from the Ludum platform. Now, Ludum is a website for coaches who need to organize groups and training squads. They've announced that they're making the platform free for anyone to use right through to August. So just sign up now and you get to use it free. There's a lot of detail on there about how to help people do the program if you have a group that wants to continue training. And then there's also Ryan Worth in Tennessee has set up a coronavirus quarantine sprints and endurance challenge, which is on the website TennesseeIndoorRowing.com. It is a paid event. You can pay to enter, but it sounds like it's huge fun. It's several different distances and you can enter as crews and you can enter individually and you can enter as masters. So go and follow that link and let's maybe see you there, ready for a race. Marlene and I were talking about how to best manage the situation and going forwards. And so for now, we're going to try doing an update once a week. And so if anybody has things that they'd like us to talk about or questions, please put them into the text chat if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll try and answer them. And then we'll also announce what we're going to do next week on a kind of special update. Now, back to the show that we had planned before all of this upset happened. Let's talk about tips for training in self-isolation.
Right. Well, I've got a good list of things. I have to say that in the last week, my inbox has completely gone crazy. I mean, it's so many people are in different situations. There are places where your boathouse is closed. There are places where your gyms are closed. There are people who who car top their boats, who have managed to get their boats out of the boathouse, who still have a place to row so they can get out in the single. Depending where you live, you may or may not be able to get outside. So there's a lot of different things going on, and we have to just adapt as we go along. But I think one of the main things is that if you're in self-isolation and you have to keep a certain distance from people, or now you have to make your training based at home, and that's not something that you normally do, some of the things that you want to consider as endurance athletes include some of these things that we're going to go over. One is if you're home and you're working from home, for example, you may not be moving around as much as you normally do. If you're leaving home and going to the office, or leaving home and working. So it's important to make sure that you continue the same amount of training that you normally do in your day, that you continue the same amount at home. Perhaps in this situation, depending on whether you have kids at home and who you're taking care of at home, maybe you even have a little bit more time to train because you don't have commuting time and things like that. However, if you're spending a lot of time at home and you're working at home, it's really important to get some ballistic loading on your legs, especially if you're cycling a lot or you're rowing a lot. You need to be on your feet during the day. So some of the things that would be really good to include in your day to keep your bone health up are things like jump roping. Really simple to do. You hardly need any equipment. If you don't have a jump rope, you can still do some small jumps without a jump rope, or work on vertical jumps, or some things what I call like sculling hops, where you kind of you sort of imitate a sculling motion. You sort of go through the sculling motion, but with a small vertical jump. But it's very important to be on your feet and not be sitting on the sofa or sitting at your desk more than you normally are during the day. It's also really important to pay attention to your muscular balance. If you're a cyclist, if you're a rower, and you're in the habit of stretching when you're at the boathouse, we hope you're in the habit of stretching at the boathouse, even though I know many people skip that, but you want to maintain muscular balance. And since we are in flexion a lot with rowing, I mean, as they say, when you row, the worst thing to do when you get out of a boat is go sit in your car and drive, right? All the muscles that you've just been using are now in flexion and cramped. You want to make sure that you're opening up, that you're moving your body into extension, and then you're moving in planes of motion that are different from what you're only doing on the erg, or say in the boat, if you have that opportunity right now. It's also important to work. So yoga, like yoga for rowers, that's a resource that's out there. Yoga for athletes. These are types of things really good to include in your daily routine. Balance exercises. If you're sitting a lot, you're not working on your balance. If you're not in the boat, you're not stimulating your nervous system quite in the same way that you do when you're on the water regularly. So a simple exercise as standing on one leg with your hand up over your head and just slightly lifting one leg off and trying to hold that, and maybe doing 4 sets of 10 or 15 seconds on each leg each day. Really important to keep your balance fine-tuned. Really simple. You can do things like that on the Swiss ball as well.
Or in the shower when you're trying to wash your feet.
Shower. Right, exactly. But working on balance, you don't think about that when you're home and your routine is maybe a little bit different, but very, very important element to practice actually all the time for masters. I do think this is something masters rowers should do on a daily basis. But your endurance training, fortunately for us, our time in the boat and our time on the indoor rower or ergometer is relatively the same. Unlike perhaps, say, cycling, where when cyclists are out training on the road on bikes, they have a certain percentage of time when they're coasting. If they're indoors on a spinning bike, they don't have this coasting time. So that transition, like road biking to a spinning bike, you might decrease a little bit your amount of training time to be equivalent. If you're on a bike erg, you can coast. So that could be about the same. But you do want to make sure that you're training the same amount that you normally would be. The last thing that comes to mind is watch your calories. Okay, if you're at home and you're not used to being home, if you snack, if you're decreasing your training a little bit, you've got to watch your calorie intake or you're going to gain weight. So I think we've talked about this in the past in other podcasts, but weigh yourself every day, pay attention to what you're eating, pay attention to your nutrition timing so you're not eating too much too late at night and going heavy on carbs late at night. Use your carbs to fuel your training and recover from your training. But do watch the calories, because you're in a different situation that you may not be accustomed to. And those of us who are used to working at home probably don't go downstairs and snack between every 25-minute Pomodoro block. But if you're not used to working at home, you might do that. So be conscious about that, so that when you do get back in the boat, you're not dealing with a few extra pounds.
Absolutely. Now, for those who haven't got an at-home training program, we have written a COVID-19 training program, and the link is in the show notes. But if you, it's also on the blog post I mentioned earlier. So there are two versions of the program. One is paid, one is free. On the free program, it's basically a pick your own workout. So you go to this website, you click on the link, and we'll email it to you. So there's a list of workouts for you to choose, and they're all explained and what the different intensities are of the different workouts. And we then make a suggestion for what workout intensity you should do which day of the week, based on whether you're training 4, 5, 6, or 8 times a week. So you basically pick the workout that suits you, and you can do yourself based on what equipment you've got. The full program is got a lot more in it. So it's a 4-week training program, which includes land training as well, strength and conditioning. And in it, we've also included the article that Marlene referenced earlier that's in our paid subscription, which talks about how to calculate your cross-training times back into rowing equivalent minutes. So how long can you cycle to do the equivalent of a 40-minute steady state erg, for example. We've also included some of the regular information that people who are on our subscription program can access at any time. So these include the erg category pace guidelines for masters, strength training guidelines, and the training program guidelines, which explains all the different categories and intensities of training. And just because you're at home and if you have access to an erg and you wanted to do it, we've included our fitness evaluation series of tests, which allows you to do some ergs over a period of several days that will help you calculate your aerobic and anaerobic capacity and your absolute power. Fill in the form. We'll send you a link if you want the free program. If you want the full program, there's a buy link at the bottom of that explanation. So that's all included in the link here off of the fastermastersrowing.com blog post. So you can pick that up for yourselves, and please feel free to share it around. We've built it for the community.
Oh, yes. And I did want to mention Craftsbury sent out a newsletter today, and there were two. If people go to the craftsbury.com website, there's a blog in the sculling section, and there were two really, really nice articles about training at home during this period of time and resources for rowing to stay motivated during this time. So they're a little bit lengthy articles, but there's some great tips and video links in there too. So that's another resource for people.
We're getting some questions from people who are watching live. You okay if I interrupt, Marlene, and we pitch those in now?
Yeah, sure.
So Glenda Howard, she says she's thinking like Ryan Worth, and there's a 3K race in August that she's thinking she might do. So good for that. And then we have a question from Seb Walker, who says he's interested to hear any thoughts you might have on the mental health side of things. He said, we're all used to being with a crew 3 to 7 times a week. I know some people at my club are finding the isolation hard. We're doing some bodyweight sessions on Zoom, but he'd love any other ideas.
Well, I do think it's important when you're home to make sure that you structure your day. Just like you do your work day when you go in the office. If you're at home now and you're going, oh my gosh, I'm training by myself. Have a goal. I mean, always have a goal. Have something you want to focus on for your session. Hopefully, I think one of the big advantages of having a training program together with other people is that you know what everyone is doing today. So I would, try to create a place, obviously, where you can check in with your teammates and share what you did today. Maybe you have a shared log, and there's some other, obviously, platforms where you can share things like that. But I think talking to people and really being focused on the present. I think that that's the most important thing right now. Like when I usually look at the year and I look at the month of November, right? November, early December. This is kind of for many people the end of head racing season. They get in between holiday seasons, and I always think about this. Like I really respect the people who stay on their program and they get up and they do it when it's dark out, and they train at a difficult time of year. Psychologically, it's the end of the year. You have to push yourself a little bit, but that time really pays off when you get back into your spring season and your summer season. And right now we're in an unusual situation because there's lots of people who race in April and May. Those races are obviously not going to happen. June races quite likely not going to happen. Beyond that, I think we don't know right now. But I think keep your eyes on the prize. Stay focused on my race that's going to happen this summer, and I still need to be prepared. And have a workout that maybe you even have your teammates, everybody rows at the same time, or maybe you have somebody who you can FaceTime with and erg with, and if you want to have a buddy to do a workout with. Those are some. Rebecca, what would you add?
I would say that for myself, and I loathe training on my own. I
do too. So for me, I'm quite happy training by myself. But I understand, if you're used to being with your group, all of a sudden, it's one thing to have one day rowing on the erg by yourself, one day a week. But when you're looking at 6 days a week ahead of you, and potentially for several weeks, it can be a little bit daunting. But one stroke at a time, right?
Yeah, so I'm a great believer in accountability. So agree with your team what time you're going to train. You're going to do it at lunchtime, in the morning or the evening, what you're going to do. So that's why it really helps to have a program and to agree what you're all going to do, and then share your results. And as I said, get that article about how to net your cross-training minutes back to the rowing equivalents, because most of us will be following programs that were written for rowing. And if you haven't got access to an indoor machine or the water, then obviously you need to know whether your training volumes are similar.
Right. I would say try to keep your practices as normal as possible. Even if you're not together, practice at the same time of day, because the moment you can go back to the boathouse, you're going to be back on that schedule. So you're better to stay on that schedule. And you know, your body likes that routine. That's why I think it's important to keep your goals in focus. Whether your regatta happens or not, I would continue to train on that same cycle, because that's what your body is accustomed to in your annual cycle. And it's going to help you somewhere along the line anyway. And if you don't have your regatta, have a pseudo regatta. You know, we can invent something. So
rightio, setting up a basic home gym. So for myself, I have pretty much nothing at home except for a yoga mat and an erg.
I'm the opposite.
I know, because I have an erg. Marlene, how would you help advise somebody what to do?
Okay, well, I'm sort of the opposite in that I have everything. I have everything at home that I like to use. But I think there are. I mean, obviously, you can be quite elaborate in your home gym if you want to be. It just depends. You know, some people really prefer going out of the house, going to a gym. Some people prefer a home gym just for saving time. In this particular situation, I would say this is what I would call the simple version of a home gym, that if you don't have these things, like, you can probably order these, you know, the majority of these things you can order quite easily online and get them in a short period of time. But you want something for an aerobic component. So obviously the indoor rower is at the top of my list. And many people also like to have a spinning bike or rollers that they can put their road bike on. So you can, you know, that always gives you an indoor aerobic possibility if it's raining out, if you can't go out of the house, depending on the situation where you live. And I also think an aerobic step, one of those plastic aerobic steps that you can adjust the height, is really nice to have, or a nice flight of stairs, because you can use your flight of stairs for some aerobic work as well. If you wanted to get pretty elaborate, you could go to something like a bike erg and the ski erg, but aim for at least one aerobic piece of machinery, and that's probably going to be your biggest investment financially as well. For core and flexibility work, I would suggest to have a physio ball. That's one of those balls with air in it. You know, sometimes in the old days, in the old days of physical therapy, before they were invented for gym use, we called them Swiss balls, because that's actually where that type of therapy came out of. And if you buy a physio ball, that you can do a lot of tons of different core exercises and balance exercises. If you buy one, to buy the correct size, you want the size of the ball. When you sit on the ball, with your hips square, your thighs should be parallel with the floor. That's how you know that you have the right size, because you don't want it too big or too small when you're doing the exercises. An ab roller, you know, one of those simple ab rollers, they're like $10. You can buy them in most department stores. Really good. If you can afford it, TRX straps are an excellent investment. You can do all kinds of exercises with TRX straps. You can hook them over a door. Gives you a wide range of core and flexibility things that you can do. A yoga mat, like Rebecca has a yoga mat, you want that for stretching. And I would include a foam roller. And I think a foam roller is a really good thing to have for maintenance, for massaging sore muscles, just kind of keeping everything loose. And it's a way of kind of self-massage for recovery. So those are our core flexibility things. In our strength component, if you don't want to have any equipment, there's obviously lots of things that you can do with your body weight. Okay, so if you didn't want to go this route, you can still do all kinds of exercises with body weight. But I like elastic bands, and there's a lot of different types of elastic bands. There's straight bands that have different resistances, and then there's elastic bands that are actually they're like gigantic rubber bands, and they're different resistances, and they'll hold different weights. So you can actually use something like that, like to do an assisted pull-up. If you have a pull-up or a chin-up bar, you can do all kinds of things like putting the bands under your feet and over your shoulders. You can do good mornings. You can do a type of deadlift. So you can be really creative with elastic bands. Almost anything that you can do with weights, you can do with elastic bands. There's also a really cool thing called hip bands. And what hip bands are is they're about this wide and they're small. And you step into it and you put them around your knees and you do lateral work. So like if you want to work on your lateral hips, skating type of motion, hip stability, very important for us in rowing. Hip bands are really cool for just try walking around the house for 10 minutes and your hips are going to get really tired. But skating motion, stepping forward, lunges, really good to use hip bands. Kettlebell, having a couple kettlebells and dumbbells that you can do quite a few basic exercises. At home, I don't really use dumbbells. I do have a pretty good variety of kettlebells. I even have a kettlebell that they go inside each other, so you can adjust them as far as weight. So you can actually get some pretty heavy ones, but you can do all kinds of exercises with kettlebells. With just one or two kettlebells, you can do a huge variety of things that are really, really applicable to rowing. And if not, basic set of dumbbells. A pull-up bar I mentioned. If you've got an overhead door, like we have a stairs that goes down into our basement where the gym is, and we can actually put the bar across the stairs, and so it's a nice solid platform for the TRX straps or the chin-up bar. If you can get a flat bench, that's very good, or something that you can use for bench press, or to sit down on to do like overhead presses. You could go to a basic set of barbells if you want to go that route. If you don't want to go that route, I would stick to kettlebells or dumbbells. And if you wanted to get a little more elaborate, a trap bar is really great. And what a trap bar is, you put barbells on it, but it's like a box-shaped bar, and you hold the handles to the side, and they're very good for doing deadlifts, especially for rowers who are very, very tall athletes. And we don't want to, you want to have your hands at an appropriate height. And, a trap bar is a really comfortable way of doing deadlifts for very tall athletes. And I think, that's my bucket list, I would say. A lot of small things that gives you a lot of variety. I mean, you could be as simple as just elastic bands and one kettlebell if you wanted to, in a mat, so but this I think gives you the ability to do quite a lot. Maybe not getting into super heavy weights. If that's what you're into, you may need better to do that more safely at the gym. But body weight, you can do a lot. So if you don't have anything, we can still think of things for you to do.
Yeah. And, in the meantime, you can ad lib, get out the kitchen scales or the bathroom scales and weigh things. So I have this really heavy microphone that I use for my podcasts. What does it weigh? A bag of sugar, a bag of flour is 2.2 pounds or 1 kilo. Put it inside another plastic bag and tape it up, or tape a handle on
it. So you have a small handle, right? Yeah. Or a bucket. You can fill a bucket with something.
With 1 liter of water is 1 kilogram. So very easy.
And we used to, remember in university, we used to have those weights that you filled up the can with cement and then you stuck a bar in it, and it was like 30 pounds. And that's what we did our lightweight circuits with. And that's a very, very inexpensive way to make some weights at home.
Yeah, we did those with giant baked bean tins that we went to the college catering department and said, can we have your empty tins?
Exactly. So some things like that. There's a good old cinder block. Yep. You can do a lot with the cinder block. Or if you put a rope around it, use it like a handle. You can do quite a bit that way too. So
go and do some skip surfing. Go and find a skip in your street where someone's renovating their house and see what they've chucked out.
Exactly.
Don't injure yourself diving into a skip. So great ideas. And I will say again that links to all of the exercises and the equipment that Marlene just went through is in the subscription program for this month. Now, some of us are going to be making up our own training. Marlene, how do you as a trained professional coach plan a training session?
Well, if you're doing it at home, I think, again, you want to stick to the same format that you're hopefully doing at the club and with the team. But there's a pretty simple rule of 4. I call it 4 main components of a workout. And every training session needs to have these 4 components. Now, how long these components are may vary depending on your time available and what you're doing. But you do want to include a warm-up to raise your body temperature and get your heart rate up and get your blood flowing. So your warm-up should be something dynamic. It could include easy rowing. It might be light erging or light jogging if you're on land, but it should be something that 10 to 15 minutes of easy motion. And I would like to add that if you row early in the morning, one of the things that you want to be very careful about is, for example, not getting up and hopping in the car and then hopping in your boat. Many disc injuries in the back occur first thing in the morning. And the reason that happens is because your discs are very hydrated after a night's sleep. So when you get up in the morning, you want to be on your feet for a good 30, 40 minutes. An hour is more ideal so that your discs squish down. So as part of your warm-up, one of the faster ways to do that is a little bit of jogging, even in place, or very, very light jogging. So if you're trained in the morning, I would include that as part of your land warm-up. After your warm-up, 10 or 15 minutes, obviously you have the main body of your workout, whatever that may be. If you are doing an interval session, make sure that in your warm-up you have gotten yourself up to the stroke rating that you're going to start your harder work at. Include that a little bit in your warm-up. Then after your main, let's say you have 30 minutes, that's the main block of your workout, make sure that you include a cool down. In Eastern European sports trainer, they say if you don't warm up and you don't cool down, you might as well not train at all. So it's very, very important when you finish the main session that you spend 10 minutes, 7 minutes, just easy rowing or walking, and you kind of let your whole system calm down. You let your circulation come down rather than stopping your training abruptly. And at that point, our 4th component is a little bit of flexibility work. So if you want to increase your flexibility, you want to do that at the end of your session when your body is still warm. That's going to be your best time for improving your flexibility. It need not be long. You can just, I would say, if you don't have a lot of time, just target what feels tight. Oh, my hamstrings feel tight, or I need to stretch my back out a little bit. You don't have to spend hours and hours stretching at the end of a session. It's more important that you do a little bit each day, target the muscles that feel the tightest, hold each stretch for 30 seconds a couple of times, and that's it. It's more important to do this frequently. And then when you have time during the week, maybe then you have a day when you can spend a little bit more time, do a little bit more lengthy yoga or stretching session, but make sure that you include at least a target stretch or 2 every day. Once you just, that kind of closes down your session.
I'm now feeling super inspired because I've taken to doing little stretches while I'm watching television in the evening.
Yeah. I mean, you can do it anything. If you're washing the dishes, you can stop and do a little bit of stretch. I kind of put it in, I do it on the stairs, or, like, especially we were talking about opening up your hip flexors, you can step on a stair a little bit higher, you can draw your hip forward. If you, as we talked about at the beginning, if you're home now and you're tending to sit a little bit more than you might during the day, your inflection all the time. So you want to do things to open up your chest space, bring yourself into extension, lie on the floor on your elbows and watch television this way, so that you're up. Yeah. So, but you can include this all the time, but in your workout, keep that format. And then you're sure you're touching your warm up, your body's prepped, you get the most out of the work, you allow your body to calm down a little bit and cool down, and then you get a couple of quick stretches in, unless you have more time. So
fantastic. Well, those are really great summary tips for everybody. And just a quick reminder that this is the URL for the useful links for rowers during COVID-19. The free program to download link is there. And I'll also have a look at adding more things in during the week. So if you are on our mailing list, you will get an email with any new articles that publish. And that will be helpful for everybody. Please tell your friends, share the link to this when it's published. It'll be published both on the Faster Masters Rowing blog, and it'll also be on rowing.chat, which is the podcast network for rowers. And there are lots of shows on the network. Recent additions include the Irish Rowing podcast, and there's a nutrition one as well. So take a look and send Marlene and I any additional questions that you have. Thanks to everybody who's been putting comments in to the live stream. We've enjoyed having you with us. And have you got any final thoughts, Marlene, before we sign off?
Well, I think everybody just take everything a day at a time, and stay positive and do what you need to do to stay healthy, and keep your goals in mind. This is exactly a time when it's really important to enjoy the process of training. We might have the race, we might not have the race. We don't know what's going to happen. An Olympic athlete never knows what's going to happen. I mean, look at what they've been dealing with. But I think this is a perfect example to say, it's very important to love the process of training and the lifestyle that training brings you. And ultimately, I think that's really what it's all about.
So please connect with us online. You can find us at fastermastersrowing.com. There are links there to all of our social media profiles. So we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. I'm personally on Twitter, although Marlene isn't. And you can also pick up all of the details at rowing.chat, which is the podcast network. Listen on any of the podcast download apps that you might have. So SoundCloud, Google Play, Spotify, iTunes, you name them, they're all there. We also welcome new podcasters. And if you want to get notified of new shows, just join the mailing list. So till next time, from us here at Faster Masters Rowing Radio, goodbye.